As I said before, to some of you before we started, I am just absolutely privileged and honored to be here with you guys today. I look at how the university is, and when I was here in my undergraduate studies, it was nothing like that. It was a great place back then, but to see what it has become and to see what it is now is just absolutely over the top. And I am so proud to come back as an alumni and see what this university has become, right? I was very, very proud the day that I went through robing, but even more proud now, if that is even possible, than I was back then. And so very happy to be here with you guys today. Gonna tell you a little bit of my background, a little bit about me, and then we'll kind of get into some of the things that I wanted to share with you all today. One quick note, typically when I do go to different places and I have speaking engagements, I do mention, not required, but I do suggest that folks have something to take notes with, because I'll be going rapidly and dropping some heavy stuff. So if you have a team scribe or a group scribe, cool. If not, if you kind of do your own thing individually, feel free to do that as well, but putting it out there, because one of the things that I will tell you, and we can talk about this a little bit later, is whatever you do professionally, whatever path you take, right, is extremely important, and it's a game changer when your mentality and your focus is about delivering value. So I want you to think about that as we kind of go through things and as we talk about things today, because you have two lives, right? You're going to be like, I have two lives? Am I two different people, right? So you have two lives, and you will learn this as you go on throughout your life. You're on this earth. You have two lives. You have a professional life, and you have a personal life. And there are places and there are times in your life, many times, and you will find out where these two lives converge, they overlap, they come together, right? So some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you all, some of them are from my personal life, some of them are from my professional life, and some of them are instances where it applied to both lives. So adding value. Now, the other thing for us to kind of think about and have is what I would call a guiding question. Can anybody in here tell me kind of what a guiding question does? What does a guiding question do? Not a trick question. What does a guiding question do? Just flip the words around. It's a question that guides, right? So typically, what you do is if you're sharing with someone, either whether it's in an intimate setting like this, or whether it's a group of, maybe 50, 60, 100 people, or around some groups that I've been around, upwards of 1,000 or more people, we always share what we call guiding questions. And so what a guiding question does is it helps those that you are with in a time of sharing to really think about kind of where their mind should be headed, right? Has anybody in here ever painted? Anybody in here ever painted?
I've tried.
Yes, I tried, right? And I was not really good at it, right? I did not do that professionally. I did it personally many years ago when my daughter was born. I painted her nursery, right? So for those of you that have painted, or maybe you haven't, but you've seen other people paint, what is it that you have to do before you put on the actual paint itself? What do you have to put down first? You have to put down the primer. Yeah, the primer. And so what does the primer do? What does the primer do before you put on the base coats?
Cover any blotches that may come off.
Absolutely, right? It does that. It covers any splotches, anything else. And here's the other thing that it does. The other thing that it does is it lays a foundation, right? And so what a guiding question does, and that's why it's so very, very powerful for you to develop, not only in your undergraduate studies now, but if you go on to your graduate studies, it's a real game changer. It lays the foundation, and then anything that you put on top of that, people can be like, oh, wow, this was really cool. This was neat. You kind of led me into that. Anybody in here ever want to be an attorney or aspire to be an attorney or anything like that? Anything that you're going to be involved in where you're going to be using persuasive skills, and hopefully I will get into Aristotle's 3 elements of persuasion if we have time, hopefully. I wanted to share that with you all. You will see that being able to persuade people is one of the most awesome skills you can ever have in your toolbox. It's a game changer. Well, how do we persuade people? Well, we have to lead them to think about certain things. So that's what a guiding question does. So delivering value. What do you think delivering value means? What does delivering value mean to any of you? Are you kind of like, you know what, Vernon, I'm kind of like IDK, but I don't want to say anything. And that's okay, right? Because if someone had asked me what delivering value meant when I was in your shoes, I would have been IDK too, right? So here's what I want you to think about when we talk about delivering value. Delivering value simply is this. What is it that we're able to do within our resources, time, money, intellectual thinking, whatever it is that we have, networks, whatever it is that we have access to, what is it that we're able to provide for people that will elevate them? That will elevate their personal lives, their professional lives. So anything that you do in an entrepreneurial sense, or if you go after school after you graduate in your undergraduate studies to work for a company, or you do anything like that, you're always thinking about how do I elevate people? Whatever it is that I'm doing, how am I elevating people? How is that elevating people? How is that making people's lives better? Now, so kind of put that out there for you. So a little bit about me. I have 2 lives professionally, right? So I work in school leadership, not here in Fort Worth, but I did once upon a time work here in Fort Worth. Deep Fort Worth roots. So after I left Wesleyan, went into the corporate world, did that kind of thing for a little while, got into education, did that for a little bit, and had somebody approach me one day that was in leadership. I was kind of like going down my road of life on cruise control. Yeah, I was there. Some of you may have been in a part of your life where you're on cruise control. And somebody came up to me one day and they said, Mr. Wright, you need to go to school. Go back to school. And I was like, well, you know, I kind of been out of school for a while. And they're like, no, you need to go back to school. So how many of you know that when there's certain people in your life, they're in your life and it's not an accident, right? And they come into your life for a reason, and they come into your life for a purpose. And that lady was in my life very much so for a purpose. And so I went back to graduate school. I went to graduate school and I got my master's. And then I started really thinking about not only leadership, but I started thinking about things beyond my quote unquote normal job, right? And then I started thinking, you know, what are some of the things that I can do to add value? So here's the part where you want to start taking notes if you haven't already. I'm going to give you 3 words. 3 words are this: connect, impact, and scale. Connect, impact, and scale. Connect, impact, scale. So you may be thinking, you know, Vernon, connect. Okay, yeah, you mean like, you know, connect an appliance to an electrical outlet, connect people together so they can talk, things like that, right? This goes beyond that, right? And so when we talk about connect, it means this. How do I interact with someone? Let's say you and I meet, which we have today, and we're talking, and when you talk to someone or you meet someone, what do you typically do? You start talking to them about your background, they start sharing a little bit of their background, and you start finding out things on a deeper level, right? Guess why that's important? Because what does it tell you as future entrepreneurs here in this room? It tells you what's significant to that person. So if I start talking to her and we go over to the Martin building, we sit down at a table and we start talking, we get into deep dialogue, I start finding out what's significant to her, right? Once I find out what's significant to her, what does that tell me as an entrepreneur? What it tells me as an entrepreneur, or even if you work for a company and you're a leader in a company, it tells me not only what's important to her, but guess what it tells me to do? It tells me, hey, whatever she's interested in, is that important to me too? So if she's interested in sports, and I say, okay, yeah, I'm interested in sports, then what do I think in terms of connection? There could be a situation where I could go ahead and elevate her life. If she's a sports fan, I could elevate her life through that. That also too, and here's another thing for you to take notes on, it also too lets me know whatever it is that I'm doing in life, is that aligned with my own purpose? Now, if you haven't thought about that yet already, think about that today. Now, here's what I challenge folks to do, and I have for years, and when I go into different speaking engagements, I mention this to folks, and I'll share it with you all here today. every single individual that strives to really do something on a greater level, right? Because we're talking about connect right now. We'll get to impact and scale here in a few moments. You really should have your own mission and vision statements. Think about that. And I will tell you this, over the years of having interviewed, I don't know, countless people for different positions and for different jobs, right? It's been very, very, very rare for someone to come in and say, Mr. Wright, Vernon, hey, I'm interviewing for whatever XYZ position. Let me go ahead before we get into the interview questions, if I could please, and share with you my mission and my vision. Wow, powerful. If you don't have that for the rest of this semester, that's a little bit of a homework assignment for you. Your mission, your vision, because guess what's going to come out of that? The mission and vision for your company. So here's how ZeroApologyZone.com started. I was really big on, as I have been very, very privileged and very, very blessed to speak to a lot of different groups locally, at the regional level, at the state level, and then beyond in other states. And so with that, I started thinking to myself, one of the things that's really, I guess as some people would say, is my jam, or is the thing that is really significant to me, is having the ability to be a voice for people. And to say, you know what, this is what I'm very, very passionate about. And in a very respectful way, I'm going to be an ardent supporter and an ardent advocate of that. And so when I got onto social media and I started sharing with folks on social media, and if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter, which is where I'm on pretty much every single day. On Twitter, the easy way to connect with me is @, of course, because that's how Twitter handles start. The Wright, WRIGHT, leader, the Wright leader. Get the pun? Yeah, the Wright leader. So if you want to connect with me on Twitter, we'd love to have you guys connect with me and my group of followers. I think right now, as of this morning, I know we're over 5,000. We're approaching 6,000 followers and hope to have an audience of about 10,000 followers by the end of the year. I was talking with some folks earlier this week about that. Yes?
Can we plug into LinkedIn with you as well?
Not on LinkedIn yet,
Okay.
but that is in process.
Okay.
And I have an IG for myself personally, but this is a branding thing. Anybody in here ever interested in branding or interested in branding? Yeah, so branding wise, I have my own IG, which is @ the Right Leader as well. But I'm also developing my own branded IG for just that. So, and that's something we can sit down and talk outside of this too, and I can talk to you about strategy and things on that. So when I got on the social media and I started, really connecting with people and sharing with people and then sharing with them too, and I would go to different speaking engagements, I would always say as a tagline at the end, and that's with zero apologies, right? To go ahead and let folks know this is what I'm absolutely passionate about. Absolutely passionate about. You want to go ahead and find out how to connect with people or get people to go ahead and spend their money on whatever your business is about, find out what they're passionate about. That's the connect part. When we talk about impact, what's impact? Impact is how do we do what? How do we provide value? So we talked about value earlier, right? And so what's value? So value is how do we provide a product or a service, whatever it is, that elevates the lives of other people. That's value. When I'm able to do that for someone, I can go ahead and say that, you know what? I've made an impact. So the first two things we talked about were connect and impact, right? Connect and impact. Well, guess what? If somebody helps you out in your studies and they're just really, really awesome, right? And you're just totally impressed with what they were able to do, what are you typically going to go ahead and say about that person when other people ask you about them? You're typically going to say, hey, this person really helped me out, right? So because you would want other people to do what? To be able to take advantage of that as well. That's where the third word comes in, which is scale. So again, remember we talked about connect, impact, scale. When you get into doing whatever your hustles are, right? Whatever your noble pursuits and endeavors are, scale is extremely important. And this is what I always tell folks, right? within the professional sense, but in their personal circles as well. You can have the greatest product, you can have the greatest mission and vision of what you're wanting to do to help other people, but guess what? If nobody knows about it, who can take advantage of it? And so there are many, many, many good products and many good services that just kind of fell by the wayside because no one knew about them. Connect, impact, scale. Well, what's scale? Scale really is this, and I want you to think about this again in your professional and personal lives. Scale is this: how can I reach as many people to change as many lives as possible? How can I reach as many people to change as many lives as possible through all of the different mediums, right? I'm here with you all today in person. We have folks that connect that are online. Hey folks that are online, waving to you there. Glad you guys are here with us today. We also have folks that connect with us through social media accounts, right? Because you want to be able to say that you're utilizing all of these different ways to connect with people, right? So you say, okay, well that's great, Vernon. So you're talking about these different pursuits and these different things, and you told us about connect, impact, scale. What are some things we can do to go ahead and work on connect, impact, scale? I'm going to give you 3 questions. 3 questions every single boss, every single CEO, every single leader, every single person that's doing their own startup from the ground up, every single person that's working in a company. Because can I tell you this? And I just shared this with someone that has been in the leadership game for many, many years. Just last week, we were sitting down, we were having a conversation with one of my leadership colleagues. You know that a lot of folks would tell you that if you were to go ahead and mention the 2 words leader and manager, that they were the same, right? May I use these dry erase markers?
Absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
okay. So let's go ahead and kind of go over here to the side. I want to go ahead and read this or do this for you. Leader and then manager. So here's what I thought many years ago. What I thought many years ago was, you know what? A leader and a manager, those 2 words are synonymous. If you're going to ask me what the difference is between the 2, it's purely semantics. That's what I thought. That's what most people think, right? And then I had somebody come along one day and share some things with me. Let me go ahead and tell you this as well. This is not part of my remarks that I want to share with you, but you all are getting to understand and see that when I go to different places and I have the opportunity to share with folks, whether it's a small setting like this or like I said, in some of the settings I've been in, upwards of 1,000 people or more, I'm always dropping little bonuses, right? So here is a bonus for you. Mentors are huge. If you don't have mentors in your life, get some. I could even volunteer for you as a mentor, as an alum, would be happy to do that for you. I had some mentors tell me one day, they said, you know, Vernon, there's a difference between a leader and a manager. I said, no, there's not. It's synonymous, right? And here's what I found out. Managers watch over this. Managers watch over systems and processes, right? Managers, systems, processes. That's what a manager does. Guess what you do? All of you should be doing. I know all of you are. You're managers. How is that, Vernon? You manage your schoolwork, right? You manage your schedule. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here with us right now, right? You manage your schedule. What do leaders do? Now, I told you before we're talking about adding value, right? When we're talking about adding value, what's the game changer? What is the thing that makes you different when you connect with people in your personal and professional lives? Leaders do this. This is what a leader does. So I want to go ahead and ask you, who have you inspired? Last 24 hours, who have you inspired? Last week, who have you inspired? Last month, the last 30 days, who have you inspired? And let me go ahead and ask you this. So I do a lot of leadership consulting and coaching on the side as well. And I ask my clients all the time, this is what I ask them. Who have you inspired? Who have you inspired? Because again, what were the three things that we talked about that we really started off with? We start off with connect, impact, and scale. Let me tell you something, folks. And this is not an MBA course, but I'm going to give you this tidbit anyway. You will never ever have impact unless you inspire. Period. And I challenge anyone to show me and prove to me differently where they've had impact and they've not inspired. Because again, what does impact really represent? Impact really represents this: real value. Real value. So you know what a lot of folks do? And I'll share this, guys, share this with you all. A lot of folks think this: oh, Vernon, man, I'm over here and I'm thinking, do I set up a sole proprietorship? Do I set up an S Corp? Do I set up an LLC? All good questions. I have just to share with you. It's not part of what I really intended to share with you today, but I told you I drop bonuses, right? I have this one myself. But really, before anyone gets to these questions, they really need to be thinking about this value part. And again, kind of bringing things back full circle and bringing them together. What does the value part really take us back to? It takes us back to vision and mission. Vision and mission. So I told you I would tell you the three questions, right? You thought I forgot. I haven't forgotten. So I was going to tell you the three questions. Number one, the number one question you need to ask folks. Now, this is in a professional context, but can I tell you a secret? It's a great set of three questions to ask when you're dating. Okay? Y'all didn't expect that twist. We're always doing what? What do we always do? Providing real value. Always. You go out on a date, you're talking to somebody, and how can I tell you that? Because I use the same three questions myself. Professionally and personally. I told you at the beginning that some of the things we were talking about today you can use in both parts of your life. Because let me go ahead and tell you this. If you have anyone tell you that you're just a professional person and you're not to really pay attention to your personal self, run from them quickly. As an individual, and you all will learn this as you go on throughout your life, you are two parts. You have a personal side, you have a professional side. The three questions are this. Number one, when you meet somebody, professionally or personally, you get into deep dialogue, ask them this question: what are you absolutely passionate about that you're working on right now? What are you absolutely passionate about that you're working on right now, this second? What are you passionate about? And I will tell you this, professionally and personally, and I've used these questions for years in both realms. Almost every single time that I have asked that first, and we haven't even made it to the other two questions. Every single time that I have asked that first question, almost every single time, the person has looked at me like, wow, I've never had anyone ask me that before. That's a deep question. Yeah, why would I ask a question like that? Because I want to know where that person's coming from. And I want to get there as quickly as possible. Because again, what am I wanting to know, especially in a professional sense? I'm wanting to know whether that person's thinking is in alignment with what I'm about. And I tell people this all of the time in a personal sense as it relates and affects the professional sense. And this very much applies to you all as part of the Entrepreneurship Club. If you go on to do entrepreneurial pursuits and to do big things, when you're dating people or you're finding out who you want to spend time with, even with friends, that's why this gathering is so important. And you guys will see how beneficial it will be for years to come. If I'm with somebody who says, you know what, you're talking about all of this LLC, S Corp, sole proprietorship stuff, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to do anything like that. I'm really not a fan of that. I'm just a fan of just go get a job and go home and watch TV. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But understand that when you're trying to go ahead and do what? You're trying to live out your vision and your mission. It is absolutely essential, not highly recommended, not a good idea. It is absolutely essential that you be around people that are in alignment with what you're doing. Does that mean that they have to do exactly the same? No, because we're all unique individuals. But they need to be able to understand what you're trying to do in your vision and mission and support you in that. Second question. You thought I forgot. I didn't. All right. First question was what? Can anybody tell me what the first question was? Yeah, what are you most passionate about right now? I challenge you to do this. Later today, whether you're in the class, whether you're, for those of you that live on campus, if you're in the dorm, if you're in the Martin Center, wherever it is, adult or fellow student, walk up to them and ask them, can I use you as a volunteer if you could come up real quick? Okay, all right. She's like, what in the world is he gonna do? This crazy guy, right? So what's your name, ma'am?
Cindy.
Cindy, all right. So, Cindy, I'm Vernon.
Nice
to meet you. Totally psyched about being here with you all today. So I walk up and I see Cindy and I say, hey Cindy, how you doing? My name is Vernon, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey Cindy, I have a question for you. Is it okay? Can I ask you a question? Yeah, because you seem like you're pretty sharp, so I want to ask you a question. What are you absolutely passionate about right now?
Making my way through college.
Okay, right? So she answered that. That was not rehearsed. For those of you watching out there, that was not rehearsed. Okay? Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. She did a great job, didn't she? Yeah, thanks. She did a great job. So when you ask most folks that, they're going to be totally surprised. Try that. Try that today. Try that the rest of the week. Just different people and something. Say, hey, I got a quick question for you. Less than 30 seconds. So, oh yeah, hey, less than 30 seconds. Yeah, sure. What's the question? What are you most passionate about that you're working on right now? And look for the response. Second question is this: what impact do you think that's going to make? Now, can I tell you a little secret? The little secret is this: when I ask them what impact do they think it's going to make, guess what I'm really asking them? Now, you guys know this. I had to promise not to tell a secret. You guys either. Okay? And I'm just joking. You go ahead and impact as many people as you can, right? Which is going to take us to the next thing, which is scale. When you're asking them what impact do you think it's going to make, guess what you're really asking them? What value are you going to provide? When you're getting into business, or you're thinking about getting into business, or you're thinking about going to work for an employer, anyone that you're around, you always want to ask them, what impact do you think this is going to make? Somebody's come up with a new proposal. I sat in a meeting last week with folks in senior leadership. There are maybe about 6 or 7 of us, and we were looking at some different proposals, some different things. And I asked them this question: what impact do you think this is going to make? And guess what? What was I really asking them? Now, I didn't tell them, but I let y'all in on the secret. What I was really asking them was, what value is this going to provide? Because if it's not going to provide substantive value, guess what I have to question? I have to question this. I have to question my investment. Now, here's one of those places where personal and professional come together and they cross, right? Make sure you're investing in things that have a yield. Let me say that one again. Make sure you're investing in things that have a yield. Make sure you're investing in relationships that have a yield. Make sure you're investing in networks that have a yield. What does that mean, Vernon? What that means is this. 2 words. Mutual value. Coming here today, this is a what? This is part of my investment. Time, money to get here. Those of you that are business students, you know there's this little thing called opportunity cost, okay? Because I could be somewhere doing something else, right? So this is an investment. But guess what? And guess one of the reasons why I'm so absolutely excited about this investment? Because there's mutual value. And you might ask, well, you know, Vernon, we're not paying you. We can give you some pizza, which is cool, and water. Thank you. Okay? But we're not paying you. So what's the value? What's the value here? Intrinsic, extrinsic. The value here for me is intrinsic. Why is it intrinsic? Because part of my vision and part of my mission is giving back to the next generation. That fills me. That, like, I go, and some folks would understand, I go beast mode when it comes to that, right? I go beast mode. When we talk about giving, and especially a place that I came to many years ago, didn't look anything like it does now. But a place that I came to many years ago, and I was still trying to understand what college was, and to come back so many years later and to give back, totally intrinsic, totally mutual value. Don't invest in things that don't yield. And let me tell you something else, business-wise and personally as well. You must carry your water and the other person must carry theirs. And I will tell you a hard-learned leadership lesson that I learned before I went to graduate school, and I have seen it play out many years after I finished my graduate studies. And it's this. So many times in my life, professionally and personally, I wanted other people to go to the next level, but guess what I found out? I wanted it, but they didn't want it for themselves. So guess what I was doing? Out of the nature of my heart, right? Because we talked about the intrinsic part. I was investing in them, but they basically were telling me with their actions, I'm not going to produce a yield. I'm not going to produce a return. How many of you guys know this little term, you know this little acronym? You guys do because you're business folks. How many of you heard of this little thing called ROI? Some of you have been investing in some relationships and been investing in some people, and there's no ROI. And you know that. So you might be saying, Mr. Wright, don't look at me when you say that. I'm over here, look over here at the wall, right? Okay? All right? But some of you may know that. So for the rest of today, you might have to have one of those heart-to-heart talks with yourself, right? But here's what I always say. Better to learn about people and businesses up front, because what does this do with my investment? Let me give you another word that you guys to apply, right? It's always education. You just don't get the education, you apply it, right? Because when I find out that something doesn't have an ROI, whether it's professional or personal, and I start to think about my investment, guess what I'm actively doing? I'm actively doing this. You guys never thought you would hear these two words in this context. I'm managing risk. I'm managing risk. And let me tell you this, before you get into any kind of investment, professional or personal, always be thinking about, how am I managing risk? How am I managing risk? Any of you guys familiar with a SWOT analysis? Okay, right? I was just sharing with someone the other day, this week, as a matter of fact, about a SWOT analysis. One of the best things that I ever went deep on in graduate school. I highly encourage you guys, anything that you do professionally and personally, use a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Because guess what this does? This does this. This is what SWOT provides you with. It provides you with a construct. Provides you with a construct. Okay? And I know that we have some folks that need to go do different things, so let me go ahead and say this. If you need to get up or whatever, I don't take it personally. Like, oh, it's such a horrible job, right? Now, I totally understand if you need to get up, you need to leave, right? It's totally cool. I just say this, right? And let me go ahead and give you another little bonus, right? Because I told you about, I drop bonuses, right? When I go out and I speak to different groups. always be authentic and always express gratitude. Always be authentic. Be real with people and always express gratitude. Because if you're always real with people and you express gratitude, guess what it makes folks want to do? It makes them want to invest in what you are and what you're delivering and what you're about. So, the third question is this. So the first question, right, because we talked about the three questions. You guys thought I forgot again. I didn't, all right? First question was, what are you absolutely passionate about right now in your work? The second question was, what impact do you think it's going to make? Which in other words was this. What value do you think is going to be provided, right? What value can we provide? The third question is this, and the third question really, intentionally, right? I guess I should go ahead and share that with you guys. Intentionally, the third question brings in scale. And the third question really is this, because it's a playoff of the second question. So the second question is, what impact do you think it will make, right? The third question is, what impact do you think it will make in your circles of influence? How many of you guys know that you have circles of influence, right? So let me go ahead and say this. This is me. Always say you. Say me. We'll make that easy. Okay. So this is Wesleyan. Okay. And then I have this other circle over here, which is leadership. And then I have this other circle over here, which is my LLC. And then I have this other circle over here, which is my personal life. Now, you might have more circles than that. Doesn't matter. The principle is this. When you're right here in the middle, and you ask someone that third question, what impact do you think it's going to make in your circles? What you're really asking them about is scale. And here's the reason why that's important. The reason why that's important is this. When I find out that whatever it is that I'm doing is really beneficial and makes a difference here at Texas Wesleyan, do I say to myself, oh, okay, well, that's great. We just leave it with Texas Wesleyan. We won't tell anybody else about this. Right? If that were the case, why in the world would we be streaming this? Because what does that third question really cause folks to think about? It causes them to think about this. Scale. How many people can I reach? How many different areas can I reach? How many different folks can I get this information to? Because here's a secret, and I will tell you it's a secret. Not really a secret, but I'll tell you it's a secret, because that makes it a little bit more engaging. Okay? If I can not only give individuals the information, but I can inspire them to use it, and I can also do what? Give them a construct through which to apply it, which is what our SWOT analysis is, we're on to something. And let me tell you this, if you get into any kind of consulting, business consulting, and you're saying, how in the world do I start? How do I put together like my own system, my own product of coaching and consulting? How do I put that together? Well, here's what you have to do first. You have to do what first? I have to know my vision and mission. I have to know what things are in alignment with me. I have to ask myself the question about connect, impact, and scale. And then ask myself the three questions. And then guess what? I start thinking about how can I reach all of these different people, which is the scale part. But once I do that and I ask that question, then guess what? I can start to get people to do this. And I will tell you this, a lot of folks ask me, Vernon, man, how have you made progress in your life, professionally and personally? How have you made progress? I've made progress by being this. Move this chair so I can get over here. I've made progress